What's up, everyone? Happy Wednesday. It is 3 p.m. Eastern Time right now, and it could only mean one thing. We're on for another episode of Healing Talks. Today, I'm going to be joined by my friend Dan Smith, who is a relationship coach. Welcome to everyone who's joining. Dan Smith has just joined the room, and I'm going to welcome him in. Welcome, brother.
What's happening?
Dan, what's up, man?
Likewise. How's
Good
my
to
audio?
see you, brother.
Excellent.
Incredible. Oh, man. First of all, I just want to express how I'm feeling right now. So grateful, so content, so happy, so filled with love, and really a full circle moment here for me. I don't know about you, but for people who don't know, I met you last year in Costa Rica. We were at a beautiful journey together with a great organization called One Heart, and you were the first person to say hi to me there, man. And you that beautiful welcoming smile, you gave me a heart hug, and I'll never forget that. So it's really an honor for me to be on this healing talk with you, because ever since that journey, and I know that that journey changed your life significantly, my life has done a 360-degree change. And it's incredible to see you making so many big shifts and changes in your life. I know you just moved to Austin, Texas. You left your corporate job. You're a full-time relationship coach, and you're up to so many amazing things in the world. So I just want to get into it, man, and just hear your story briefly. And then I've got a couple of things that I pulled off of your Instagram, a couple of posts that you put out that really hit close to home for me, and talk a little bit about that and what it is that you're doing in the world right now and how you're helping other people with their relationship issues and a lot of the issues around the inner child. So really quickly, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how your journey started, and
Absolutely.
how you got to where you are right now, brother?
So much there. So a lot of this household growing up was less than a safe environment, right? There was a lot of trauma I experienced growing up in my formative years, and that led me on a path of confusion, anger, fear, and all of that manifested in destructive ways in my life. More than any place was relationships and romantic being the biggest sacred mirror to all of our stuff, right? And
Yes.
until
Yes.
I was 25, I think it was, maybe 24, was the first shift in consciousness I had from, oh, hang on, it's not just everyone else, right? I'm a common denominator in all of this. And I mean, I had glimpses of that growing up, but there was still just such victim consciousness I was holding because I didn't know any better, right? And that was my way of protecting myself and being safe. And so that was the start of my journey. Read the Power of Now, and completely that was like an ayahuasca trip in a book for me, because it was such a profound realization that, wow, there's a reality outside of my mind. Was 14, 15 years ago, 16, 14, I don't know, I can't count, 14 years ago. And, the journey has been revealing. And the shift that happened at each stage of my journey led me to a place of, there was a moment when I was sitting with my first coach and mentor, where all of the energetic weight that I was carrying and things that he said and the space that he held, I didn't really know what was happening at the time, gave me a big contrast to like all this heaviness to, I can breathe. And in that moment, I was like, wow, I want to do that for other people. That was good, but I wasn't ready for a long while to get to the point where I could really hold space for another. And so, I mean, there's much to say, but let me take a pause there and let you chip.
Wow, it's incredible. First of all, what a young age to have that realization at. I remember when I had that realization of, wait a minute, it can't just be everyone around me. I'm the common denominator in all my relationships. Therefore, I should probably start taking accountability for how I'm showing up in all my relationships and how I am creating my reality. And that happened in 2020 for me when I was 30. So you were already ahead of the curve. The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, I've heard is an incredible book, and I haven't yet dug into it. And it's something that you said earlier about how you weren't ready yet to hold space for people. Even though I've done a lot of work and I've been on this journey for a long time, I still don't feel like I'm ready for that book. And I know that when I am, it'll just magically fall onto my lap, and I'll be able, because I've tried to read it before, and it's one of those books, man, that it just goes way over my head. And so I think there's still some growing, there's still some learning there for me to do. Hey Dan, you're having a little bit of connection issues. You'll pause every now and again. So maybe I don't know if your internet is a little funky today. Is Mercury in retrograde? Can anyone in the comments comment down below if
I've
Mercury's
got
in
you clear right
retrograde?
now.
Please let us know.
Have you got? It could
Awesome.
be me, but
Maybe
right
it's
now
me then.
I'm connected. Can you hear me?
Perfect. I can hear you good now. It's just every now and then
Yeah.
it'll just kind of glitch a
Let's
little
see how
bit.
we go.
Yes.
Let's see how
Thank you,
we go. I'm
Danny,
in an
for what
Airbnb
was
right
that?
now in this transition of the move, so I don't have complete control
Ah.
over all of that stuff. But fingers crossed we'll be okay. Um,
Oh, yeah. So the Marwa asked about the book. Marwa, the book is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And it's happened to me before where people tell me, look, you should read this book, or this book changed my life. And then I'll go and I'll pick it up and I'll read the first few pages, and it just goes way over my head. And that happened with another book that I read recently after I went through a huge shift in my life, a big life change. And I got it. Like it was then a page turner for me. So this book, The Power of Now, if you're live with us right now and you're hearing this message, check out the book, see if it resonates with you. And if it doesn't, then maybe you're not ready to read it yet. But it's definitely one of those books on my reading list. I can't wait to finally be able to pick it up and understand what's happening in the book, because it's deep, man.
that was
It's deep.
I mean, until I sat with grandmother in J7 actually before we met. The Power of Now was the single most transformative experience of my life, and the first third of the book that I read was like, and suddenly I became aware of around me that I'd never seen before. It was like a quantum leap in my consciousness, and so maybe try reading a little bit more of it, and see, and I get that. I remember I moved to Miami in 2013. I was actually up in Hollywood, Florida, and I used to carry the book around with me because sometimes I would just pick up and open a page and just read a paragraph, and it would center me. Just randomly open the page, and I would have it. I'd be sitting in Starbucks working on my laptop, and I'd have books sitting there, and I'd get a bunch of people coming up to me all the time saying, "Oh man, I tried to read that book and I just couldn't. It was too much. I couldn't do it." So you're not alone, but I think you're ready for it, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. This is the sign, this could be the sign that I'm ready to pick it up and read it. Let's talk now about you sitting and if you want to, because eventually I do want to get into what you're sharing now on your social media feed and the kind of work that you're up to. But I always love to start these talks with the journey, because one thing that you mentioned that was really profound, and I share with everyone, is that if you want to be a healer, if you're here and you're someone who has had a life-changing experience with a coach, or is feeling like they're ready to share what they know, it's very important for you to be clear on your own healing journey. And the journey is never done. I always compare the healing journey to a mountain with no top. So that by no means is the journey ever complete. There's always healing to do. But you did a lot of inner work before you started offering your services as a relationship coach. And you also sat with ayahuasca, as you mentioned earlier. How significant was that for you? Because I know for me personally, sitting with plant medicine radically changed my life. That was also one of the biggest shifts that I ever experienced, and it got me to where I am today. So if you care to talk a little bit about that, and if not, we can just go to the next
So
chapter of this conversation.
I actually like to tell people that he's not a mountain. And I think it's the way a lot of people see this journey, because even someone like me that was in the work a long time before I shifted the way that I experienced the journey. And I think it was that idea of like climbing a mountain. And if you're climbing a mountain that never ends, I mean, that's exhausting, right? And so now I'm still in my journey. Like you said, it never ends. Embrace it as part of life. It's not like this, oh, when's it, when am I going to get there? And it's not this big, arduous task of, or intimidating task of climbing a mountain, right? For me, the healing journey is about letting go. Over and over again, letting go of everything that's not us, right? Wow. It's not truly us. It's all stuff that we built up over the years. I was just listening to a podcast, and he talked about maybe Michelangelo. Anyway, he was talking about one of his sculptures, and he said, all I'm doing when I'm creating a sculpture is I'm chipping away at everything that is not the sculpture, the end result, right? So healing is about chipping away every part of us that is not our stuff. It's stuff that we picked up and we've carried through our conditioning and our trauma and life, abuse. I'm back.
Yeah.
COVID,
You're back.
loss, grief, like shame. It's all this stuff that's not us. So it's a chipping away and letting it go of all of this stuff. And I had a disorganized attachment wound.
All right, you guys, hang on tight. Dan will be joining us again. He's having some connection issues, and I do want to keep this going. Thank you guys for your patience. Dan is incredible, as you can already tell. He has so much insight, and the guy he's been on a long healing journey, and it's just really an honor to have him here today. So hold on tight. We've got 5 people viewing right now. He will be joining us. Hey Dan, welcome back, brother.
We're going to try with that Wi-Fi.
Ah, even better, even better. Yeah, I think that works better sometimes. So I would love it, man. Thank you so much for that piece of insight as to how you view the healing journey, because it shifted my belief about healing. I used to think of it as, like you said, like this arduous climb to the top of an endless mountain. And now I get to see it as something like I'm releasing, I'm letting go, which is the path of least resistance, the path of flow, which is what my healing journey has gone into now, which is if something is not meant for me, if I'm having to struggle, constantly fight for something, and I'm still not seeing any results, then it's best that I let it go instead of, again, fighting and holding on to it and struggling through it. So thank you for giving me that insight. Can you tell me a little bit more about that analogy of the person sculpting something, chiseling something out of granite or solid rock? What was it that they were sharing?
Um, so I like to think of this idea. Everyone's talking about becoming. I want to become
Right.
this kind of man or this kind of coach. Now, okay, let's forget the coaching analogy because we can always up level in skills, but the healing journey is more about letting go, right? So I think as Rumi said, it's not about finding love. It's about just breaking down all of our barriers that we have that's blocking us from love,
Mm.
right? The fear, the insecurity, that fear of abandonment. I don't want to get too close to this person in case they abandon me like my parents or like my dad did, right? For example. The challenge is a lot of this is unconscious. And this is where the plant medicine came in, really helped me, was because it allowed me to get underneath underneath the conscious mind and have insights into what I was not able to see before, right?
Wow.
If we can't see something, we can't change it. As my mentor likes to say, we can't participate in a world that we can't see,
Mm.
right? And so there's, you've got friends and you can see through your interactions and their way of being, you're like, you feel like you've got the answers to help them, right? And we even go into like advice giving. It's like, oh, you should do this, you should try that. And even from that space, sometimes one, they cannot see it. And two, they're not ready to see it. And
Mm.
if that's apparent for them, then it's probably apparent for us,
Yep.
right? And so for me, the biggest um, benefit I got from sitting with the medicine was to see more of what I was unable to see through my conscious waking mind. The stuff that I blocked out because it was too much for my psyche to process. Now I get to do the work to lean into all of those areas where I'm still holding on.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about our developmental years between the ages of 0 and 8, and how much that really impacts us as adults, because that's something that I've also been doing a lot of work around, is my inner child, and hearing the voice of my inner child. And if I don't, then my inner child can really run amok and create a lot of destruction, can wreak havoc in my life. And it has, and it's become more and more apparent thanks to plant medicine and thanks to the work that I've been doing with all the tools that I've been given through yoga. So let's talk a little bit about the inner child. And there's a quote here that you wrote that I want to address as well. Survival patterns, the survival patterns you created in your childhood to keep you safe will continue to show up as ineffective ways of being that prevent you from having the life and relationship you desire in adulthood. Until you uncover these unconscious patterns and make a conscious effort to shift them, you'll find it difficult to step into being the conscious creator of your world. That's so powerful, man. And that resonated with me, touched me so deeply. By the way, do you like, I would love to talk about these because they're so amazing. Do you ever plan on writing a book? Because I think you should. I'd read it, man. I'd be the first one to pick it up.
Thank you. And it's funny you should say that. I am. in the beginning processes of co-authoring something over the next couple of months. So
Awesome, man. Congratulations.
um, thank you. So yeah, I'm excited about that. And yeah, at some stage, I'd like to write something solo, not just yet.
All right. Okay, well, let's dig into this quote because this has got a lot of stuff to unpack. Survival patterns that we created in childhood to keep us safe show up in our relationships as ineffective ways that prevent us from having the life and the relationship that we desire. Just personally speaking, I had a mother growing up that was emotionally unavailable. And so I tend to, in the past, I have attracted partners that resemble my mother. And it wasn't until recently that I realized, whoa, wait a minute, there's a pattern here of me attracting these unavailable partners because in a weird way, or in an interesting way, I don't want to use the word weird, but in an interesting way, that makes me feel safe. That's normal for me, even though it's not the healthiest thing to do. It is normal for me because that's what I knew as a child in those developmental years between the ages of 0 and 8. Let's talk about that, man, because I don't know if that's something that you I don't know if that's something that you work on with your clients, but I think it's definitely something worth noting, especially here on this talk. So let's get into that.
Absolutely. So thank you for sharing that. But before I speak into that, generally, what you were in the post there is, so between the ages of 95% of who we are at 30 years old, 40 years old, is a result of our unconscious programming between ages 0 and 7. So everything that we bring in through our senses in those formative years creates our model of the world. And so when we experience big emotions and situations that we can't cognitively understand, but we feel them, we don't know how to process them, and maybe our parents that are still very in their own wounds and they haven't done their work aren't able to process them with us. So a couple of things we do: we suppress the feelings and the emotions into the body, and we carry them as traumatic memories. We create meaning about that happening, right? So something happens, we create a meaning that my mom was, I'm not loved and I'm not lovable, right? It's a meaning I created from some of my childhood experiences. And then we create coping mechanisms, or I call survival patterns, to give us a full sense of safety that we carry through our lives until we intercept them, right?
Mm.
And so, for example, if you were to, a 4-year-old has listening from their bedroom, hearing their parents scream and shout at each other. And so they don't really know what's going on. But if they create a meaning that they're fighting because of me, as we're very egocentric as kids, so we make everything about us, right? So the meaning, they're fighting because of me, and now we've created some toxic shame that will reverberate throughout our life. And so now we will adapt our behaviors to try and not cause conflict, right? That could appear in people pleasing, avoiding conflict, or if one of the parents left, right, we don't want to, there's a fear of abandonment. And so now we start, now we start becoming a character, that we're playing a character that's not truly us, so that we can create safety in our world. And we start trying to control everything that we can in order to feel safe. Now that cuts us off from, because authentically, that cuts us off from creating what we want in our world, because we're in survival mode, right? My entire life I grew up in survival. When we're in survival, we can't truly learn, adapt, and become our own identity that we truly hold for ourselves, because we're living in fear. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So then what do you do to, first of all, uncover that? Are there meditations that you take people through? Are there certain processes to, first of all, see that? Because like you said, if you're not able to see something, you can't put in a world that you can't see, first of all. So first is the awareness piece versus seeing it. And then what do you do to heal that? I've done a lot of work around forgiveness, and
Mm.
personally that's worked for me in the past, and also around my self-love, a lot of work around self-love. And isn't it interesting, Dan, that we manifest these relationships, because like you said perfectly at the beginning, especially in romantic relationships, it's such a divine mirror for us to see ourselves, to see the parts of ourselves that we haven't forgiven yet or we haven't loved. And so we attract these partners that aren't for us, but are in a way for us to get us to see these things, to uncover these things about ourselves. So after you have that awareness piece, then what do you do?
Well, let's start with uncovering. The first thing that I do when I start with a new client, in the very first session, we go through a process where we uncover all of their childhood, not all of them, um, over a span of 25 years, like 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15. What is the best memory that you have of that period? They explain, oh, this happened and this what happened. What made it a great experience? And how did you feel? Right? I'm getting into their world. I'm getting an idea of the way they see the world. And then I'm asking them, what is their worst memory from that period?
Mm,
And then we do that right through to 25 years old. And now what I'm looking for is patterns. And the three areas that I'm focusing on is safety, approval, and control.
mm,
So as humans, if we don't feel safe in any moment, our nervous system doesn't feel safe, we'll look for approval and validation of our self-worth and who we are, right, as an identity. And then if we don't feel safe and we don't get approval and validation, then we go to control. I'm going to control everything in my world so that I can get approval and feel validated so that I can feel safe. And so I'm looking at the patterns of where they're seeking that in their life, as
oof.
well as key events that happened that are showing up in specific ways, right? So, for example, let's say I'm doing that with you, and you say, you know, my mum was very emotionally unavailable, and or you tell me you're experiencing that in your relationships. I was like, okay, let's go back. Let's see where that came from, and
Mm,
let's see all of the ways that you attracted that into your life. And the reason that you do it, one, is familiar, for sure. The bigger reason is I'm paraphrasing, but there's a well-known relationship therapist called Harville Hendricks. And he said the purpose of a relationship is for two people to come together and heal their childhood wounds. And so we will attract people and situations in our life in order to bring up our stuff to the surface, so there's an opportunity to heal it, because we've suppressed it and pushed it down. So our brain's very like, let's bring it to the surface. Unfortunately, what we often do is then, oh, this doesn't feel good, I'm going to turn to alcohol, drugs, food, porn, Netflix, Instagram to try and not, we don't like not feeling good, right? To try and avoid those uncomfortable feelings. And so you asked, how do you start to heal that? It
yeah.
can be very specific in, um, it can be very specific to the wound. So how can we recreate that either like in real life or in through a guided process so we can re-experience it and create a new meaning and start to reprogram ourselves to realize I am safe. There's no one coming around my house to kill me. The roof's not about to fall on my head. I have access to food and clean water, and just internalize that. Yes, of course I'm safe, right? Approval of my validation, my worth. Do I approve of me? I mean, maybe I've done some fucked up shit, but am I a good human? Do I deserve to be here? Right? Self-sourcing the very things that cause us to be afraid, and control. Am I controlling everything that I need to? I mean, there's obviously stuff that I've put off and haven't done, but am I controlling the things I need to be a responsible human? Right? Am I paying my mortgage? Am I making sure I'm working and putting food on the table? Am I being responsible with other humans and making amends? If, you know, am I taking responsibility for my life at a basic level? Because this is survival patterns we're talking about, right? At a basic level. And when we realize that, it's like, oh, all my needs are really met.
Mm.
And so now we've got some new awarenesses, and we can start to the reprogramming part of that. And now we have a new level of consciousness to start seeing when it happens. So I ask people to set an alarm every like 10 alarms every day for the next 10 days. And when that alarm goes off, start noticing over the last 30 minutes, hour, 2 hours, where have I been seeking approval from other people or external validation? Where have I been trying to control everything in my life so that I can feel safe? More awareness. And if we've been programming ourselves, or we've allowing the world to program us for the last 40 years, we get to be patient with the process of unlearning all of that stuff that's not really us.
That's incredible. So on that note, I want to get to this question, and unfortunately this person had to log off, but how do you find the identity if you've always had to play the character? So for people who don't know, who just joined us, Dan mentioned that as a child, if we feel unsafe, if we feel unloved, unseen, then we'll start to create a character so that we can be seen, so that we can be safe. And there's actually a quote, something else that you wrote, that you posted about how you had to play this role of a clown so you can make people laugh, and if you made people laugh, then you would get validation. So this person says, how do you find the identity if you've always had to play the character? You start to feel like the character is the identity, right? So have you met people, have you met clients that are like, what are you talking about, Dan? This is who I am. But then you can see like, no, this is some character that you're creating or that you've been playing your whole life, and you're doing it to protect yourself from feeling insecure, unsafe, unloved like you did as a child. So how do you start to feel, how do you start to separate that character from your true identity?
Do the opposite. We have to see it first, right? So now we've got an awareness. Okay, chronic people pleaser, right? That was one of the characters I played.
Yeah.
And so now I'm aware of it. I get to start noticing in my life, right? Where is this happening? Where am I people pleasing in order to avoid conflict so that I can feel loved and I can feel safe? And now I'm going to stop doing that. And every time we are faced with the situation and we feel the urge, or there's conflict, or there's something that they might be upset, notice the stories I'm telling myself and start acting in authentically, right? Speaking up, speaking my truth when I want to hide it. We're going into the discomfort. The tendency is to run away from the discomfort. Now we're going to face it. And every time that we don't people please, right? Or we speak our truth, even though it may not be received well,
right?
Doesn't mean we don't speak politely and we're not well thought in the way we're speaking, but I'm going to speak my truth anyway. knowing that this could cause conflict or a bad feeling in another person, reminding ourselves, I'm not here to babysit your emotions. And I'm now noticing also when I speak my truth, what's happening in my body, right? Becoming the master of my energy. Because that's what's happening. If you say something to me right now that triggers me, there's objectively what happened? Well, you said some words, and then I started feeling uncomfortable in my body. And then to try and get away from that discomfort, I'm going to act in a certain way in order to feel comfortable, right? And that's the inner child. Or the inner child is just one part of us. It's a part of us. It could have been the 25-year-old me that had a traumatic experience, or it could be the 7-year-old. But that's that version of me that feels scared. That's the uncomfortable feeling.
Mm.
So I get to now start to pay attention to that and and be with it. Create a sense of comfort within the uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Like, right, you live in Miami,
Right.
and in Miami, occasionally there's a hurricane. And a hurricane is absolute chaos around us, right? Windows boarded up, everyone hiding in their homes, a week's supply of food, no electricity, right? But what happens in the eye of the storm?
Calm.
Calm. And so we are creating a sense of calm here. I point here for me because that's where my tension and my fear shows up, despite the chaos around us. Calm amongst the chaos. Now there's
There's
other
so
things we can be. Yeah, you go.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna, man, you're hitting on so much, and I just want to like pause here because I just want to recap a little bit of what I heard you say, which touched me deeply, and I want to restate it for people who are just joining us right now. The things we avoid, or let me back up, the things that people say to us that make us feel uncomfortable are things in us that we haven't faced yet. That's why no one is ever doing anything to you. If someone triggers you or upsets you, or if you see something in someone that upsets you, it's you're seeing something in them that you have about yourself that you haven't made peace with yet, or you haven't brought to your full awareness, or you haven't loved about yourself. So if anyone leaves this conversation with anything, I would love for it to be that. Going back to the thing about how you are the common denominator in all your relationships. So start to look for the patterns in your relationships, kind of partners that you're attracting, because not every man is bad, not every woman is bad. And it doesn't mean that we're bad either. And that now when we have this awareness about ourselves that we should go beat ourselves up, now is an opportunity when you get that awareness piece to love yourself even more and to confront those parts of yourself, or to love those parts of yourself that you've been avoiding. That like you said, you're using Netflix to numb, you're using drugs to numb, you're using casual sex to numb, you're avoiding. One of the most powerful quotes that I ever heard, this was back in 2020 when I had my spiritual reawakening, was the opposite of addiction is connection. And connection to self, first and foremost, because the most important relationship that we have is the one with ourselves. And that was so powerful for me and very healing for me, because at the time I was dealing with an addiction problem. I was not allowing myself to see things. I was numbing myself from seeing things that I hadn't dealt with 30 years of my life. And I was spiritually bypassing those things because, oh, I'm a yoga teacher. I got it all figured out. I know it all. And I want to share this because I have a couple of friends that are healers that have joined us, our talk. I saw a message this morning from a friend who's a yoga teacher, and another yoga teacher in her community committed suicide. And so this is something that we as healers, as coaches, I think that we should be more vocal about. That yes, we are on the journey. We do give people advice, but we're on our own journeys, and silence kills. So if you're a healer out there and you're dealing with some demons, you don't have to go through it alone. And I think coming out into the open and sharing these things and talking about them is so healing for all of us. And that's one of the reasons why I started Healing Talks. So I just want to invite everyone to start confronting or start loving these aspects of yourself that you're not willing to see because A, you think you're above that, or B, because you feel like you're not strong enough to go and confront these things and to love these things. And there's people like Dan out there, and I'm a yoga teacher, so I have my own techniques. You have your own techniques, Dan, but there's help out there for everyone. No one should suffer alone in silence.
Absolutely.
So thank you, man. Thank you for the work that you do, for everything that you're up to in the community, because for every one of you, there's many others that are in need of that guidance. And you can be that guide to point them towards their North Star. Because that's another thing that I learned back in 2020 is no one is actually healing me. I'm the one healing myself. We are guides that show people the way. We illuminate the way, and then we have to walk our path. We have to walk our journey. We're not alone, but we do have to take those steps. We have to do it ourselves. So it's it's a very profound thing when you realize that. And again, I want to go back to what you said about the healing journey not being this arduous climb, this, like I used to say, mountain with no top. It's about letting go. It's about surrendering. It's about peeling back the layers and all the things that cloud your judgment of yourself, all the things that you picked up as a child, all those false beliefs. It's about loving on those things, seeing those things, and then releasing, chipping away at those things and letting them go so that you can, your true identity, true self can come into the world, can be reborn. Because we're born whole, perfect, and complete already.
Absolutely. And I think, a big thing that you said is not just that there's support available, but it's vital. I couldn't get here today without support. And I won't get where I'm going without support. Right?
Absolutely.
We are traumatized in relationship. And we get to be healed in relationship by learning that relationships are safe. Right? It's amazing how, and even for someone that's been seeking coaches and healers and for a long time, we talked about ayahuasca, right? Helping us to see things that we can't see. There was a moment in the second ceremony where it's the only time I used to see people getting assisted to the bathroom, and I'd never had or needed that experience. And like, it wasn't a judgment, it's just like an observation. It's like, these people can't make it to the bathroom by themselves. And then there was a moment in ceremony 2 where I could barely stand up. And I'm looking around, and then eventually I put my hand up, and Christine come to help me. And in that moment, I just burst out crying.
Oof.
And it was in that moment I realized, even though I've asked for a lot of help, how difficult it is for me still to ask for help, to ask to be supported, right? Because again, that's a connection that we fear, right? Our ego's fighting for separation. Like and there's a lot of like things that are thrown around the internet. I'm a sovereign being. Yes, and be careful. Be careful how much you disconnect yourself by this identity of I'm a sovereign being. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there's nuances to everything, right? And we fear separate. We fear connection. We want connection, but we also fear it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this world, this world that where we're playing the character. We're playing the character because we think that that's what everyone else needs us to be, so that they can love us and that we can feel connected. Right? It's
I love
connection
that.
that we fear.
I love that you brought up connection to others and also being a sovereign being. And this is beautiful because it's a perfect segue into what I wanted to ask you next. And I'm asking out of curiosity for myself, personally speaking. So we've identified that we have these patterns. We've identified that we create an identity based off of our traumas from childhood. We've had several failed relationships. We've realized, hey, I'm the common denominator in all my relationships. Instead of pointing the finger at others, how about taking a look at myself with love and without judgment? Okay, wow, I understand now. I have these things about myself. I'm healing these things. I'm confronting them, loving them. Now I realize, wow, I love myself. You know, I have so much compassion for myself. I went through so much as a child growing up. And now I'm, as a sovereign being who loves him or herself, I still want love. You know, like we all, man, I don't know about all. I don't like to make generalizations, but I want to find love, man. Like I want to be in a beautiful relationship with a supportive partner. I would love to have a family, and I want to have children. You know, this is these like I'm speaking to you all as a man right now. This is what I want for myself. I'm declaring it right now, and and I also I am refusing to continue to repeat these patterns, these kind of partners that I've been attracting. I feel like so grateful, by the way, for all these partners. Like we've been saying, how relationships, especially romantic relationships, are divine mirrors for us to see those parts of ourselves that we haven't healed. So thank you to all these partners. And I still have great relationships with all my ex-partners. Thank you, life. Thank you, God. And now I'm ready to manifest something else in my life as a sovereign man, right, who loves himself, who puts himself in first place, who also wants to be in a loving relationship. What do I do now, Dan? What would be your advice? I know we don't have all day. I mean, this is going to take several sessions, but can you encapsulate it for people out there who have kind of the same intention for their life going forward?
Mm, mm, yes.
By the way, thank you, man. Thank you for letting me share that with you because I've never declared that before in public. So this is a big deal for me. So thanks for that.
Celebrating you,
I would have been
brother.
able to do it with anyone else. So thank you, brother.
Thank you for your vulnerability and for putting that out there. So that's the first step. Recognizing that you want it. There's nothing wrong with desire. The path to get there is, I think, I'm going to share my philosophy on attracting a relationship. Number one, stop looking for dating advice. It drives me crazy seeing. I mean, there's some dating coaches I follow, and they put out some of this work, but it's not by changing your profile picture on Tinder, right? We get to step into energetic alignment with that which we're calling in.
Mm.
So how do we do that? One, we have a clear vision of what do I really want, right? When we don't know what we're looking for, then we'll settle for anything well, you can't hit a target you can't see. And I'm not talking about women or men as target, but it's, have you heard of the reticular activating system? Hang on.
I hear you, brother. I hear you. Yeah, you're back. You're back. You're back. Yeah.
I've got a bunch of notifications coming through and pausing me. Do you know what a reticular activating system is?
I'll take a guess. It's basically it filters your reality. It shows you what you're looking for.
Kind of. So reticular activating system, yes, it's filtering. There's so much happening in every moment. And so it's filtering out everything that's not useful to you in that moment. Otherwise, we'll just be like sensory overload. Now, the key is being clear and intentional about what's important to you in life, right? And so what car do you drive? If you don't mind me asking.
I drive a Nissan Altima.
When you got that car, when it was new to you, did you start seeing every other Nissan Altima on the road?
It's funny you're asking me that because yesterday I actually went up to a car that looked just like mine. I thought it was so yeah, absolutely. I'll notice my car more than anything now. Yeah,
And even before you buy it, when you're just like searching, you're like, I want that car. And now suddenly you
yeah,
start seeing it everywhere.
yeah.
And so when we have our mind fixated on what we want, we will start to see it. Most people
Ooh,
do not know the vision of who they want to call in. And not just the vision of the person they want to call in, but the experience. What do I want
ooh,
to experience in a relationship? What is an aligned relationship for me? What are their values? Well, I can't I can't even look at aligned values for them if I don't even know what my values are. Right. And then what are the, what are the interests, the beliefs? Where are they emotionally? What are they, what are they like sexually? There's so much that we get to understand about ourselves and what we're looking for in order to be clear on who we're looking for, so that when we meet everyone that's not them, we don't waste our time, we don't waste theirs, and also maybe start paying attention to the red flags.
oof.
Now, there's red flags get a bad rap on, again, Instagram is the Wild West when it comes to information. People say, "Oh, they're a red flag," right? It's like, well, it's like they're bad. Red flags are just anything that doesn't align with our values and what we're looking for. That's a red flag in my determination of like, is this person aligned for me? And so when we got a vision and we understand what alignment's about, for me, it's about doing our own work and surrendering and trusting that they're going to show up and believing that they're going to show up in the right time, in the right way for you.
Wow.
Now, the problem with, I mean, I don't hate dating apps, but you have to be very careful because it's like this swipe left, swipe right, instant gratification. Like I'm just gonna push a button and find a wife or a husband,
Right.
right? And now we're getting, it's easy to get distracted. And I'm going to share a quick story for all of this in how I found Claudia. And that was, I was in Miami and I was just going on a dating rampage. And I won't get too deep into it, but I used to go out and hunting women so that I could have, some sort of love reflected back to me and feel good about myself as a man and my worth, all the stuff we talked about, right?
Yeah.
And then I eventually got to a point in my healing where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna still date, but I'm not gonna be like trying to sleep with a woman the first night, having casual sex. You mentioned that earlier. And so then I went to, okay, I'm gonna go on dates, and if I don't believe that I'm gonna want to see them again or that there's a future there, I'm just gonna be open and honest and speak my truth without that fear of conflict, right? Because I was a people pleaser. And so I was going on all these dates, and even though I wasn't like really seriously looking for a relationship, I was open to it. And I was like, yeah, I'd like a relationship. And so I got to a point where I said, I went like 7 dates in 7 days or something. And I remember after one night at Nyara on Miami Beach, I'm like, I'm not getting what I want from this. And then a voice come back and it said, what do you want? And then I remembered several years ago that I wrote a relationship vision in a Tony Robbins seminar. It's like, you know what? I'm going to go back to the relationship vision. So I got real clear on who I was looking for. I deleted all dating apps. I stopped going to happy hours with my friends that were all hunting women. And I focused on me, continuing to do my work, my personal work, my growth, my healing. I started to fall in love with my life, taking myself out to dinner, taking myself to the movies, and just falling in love with my own company. And I trusted and believed that she would show up at the right time in the right place, exactly as it was supposed to happen. And so the last piece of this is, right, we are vibrational beings, right? We're energetic beings. And so I started this by saying we get to get into alignment with the vibration of what we want to call in. So now we've talked about knowing what alignment means to us. And now my question for you is, let's say you are with that person and you were doing the things you love doing, like all that crazy acro yoga stuff that intimidates me, and right, healing and traveling to Egypt, right? And you've got this dream relationship and everything is amazing. You get to get clear about what are the emotions that you are going to be experiencing when that happens. Why don't you give me a couple?
Oof. Wow. Can I have a moment to write this down? I'm just playing. I'm gonna do this after the talk, man. I'm gonna do this after the talk. But I'll tell you what it would feel like for me is, first and foremost, safety.
Boom.
I'm big in that, man. I gotta feel like I can really trust this person. It's hard for me to trust people, man. And I have a very good spidey sense. My intuition is very strong, and I'm usually right. When I have a gut feeling about something or like a hunch, I listen to it and I'm usually right. So first and foremost, safety. I have to feel like, okay, I could really trust this person. This person is who they say they are. So first of all, safety is feeling safety, like trust. There's a feeling of trust there. And just more than anything, the ability to express myself and be myself, not having to hide who I am, not having to put up an act. Like I can show them parts of myself that I wouldn't normally show the external world.
Yeah.
And they would still not, what's the word I'm looking for? What is it when someone does something and then you're just like, yeah, well, that's okay. It's I don't want them to coddle me. Like if they see me in a vulnerable state, is to show me love and also hold me up to a higher standard at the same time. So I don't want to be coddled. I don't want someone to just tell me it's okay when it's not okay. But I would love for someone to show me. And that's really what love is, in my opinion, is to see someone in all aspects and still love them anyways. And then say, hey, look, we're all human. I'll love you anyways. And I think you can do this next time. Consider this next time. So more than anything, it's that feeling of safety. I can trust this person. I can be myself around this person. I can be vulnerable with this person and still feel that love. That their love is not conditional. That would be it for me. Yeah.
So what's wrong with those, right? So you want to feel safe. You want to have trust. You want someone that can hold you in your stuff, but also tell you the truth. And
yes,
here's the thing. Often people will say, when I have this relationship, then I can have all of these things. Right? But that is not the law. That's not what the law says.
Nope.
Right? The law of attraction says I have to be vibrating at that frequency in order to attract. So how do you create a sense of safety within yourself, right? As well as creating an environment in your life where you feel safe, so your nervous system can relax. How do you create a greater sense of trust within yourself and hold that as a standard in your relationships, your other relationships, right? Do you surround yourself with people that tell you the truth, or people that coddle you and, right? So now you go out and create this here.
Mm.
And when you can step into alignment with that which you wish to call in, it cannot be any other way. That's the law.
Woo!
Right? Einstein said it, right? This is not spirituality, this is physics. Right? Science, for those people out there that trust in the science. And so, and this is a process, right? But it's internally, we're always often looking as, where's this person that can save me, right? So I can experience this life that I want to live. And that person is in the mirror, looking back at you every day, saying, oh, I don't have all these things. Well, when we have lack, when we're coming from a place of scarcity, the universe will respond and give us more of that. Neil Donald Walsh said in Conversations with God, you cannot have what you want, but you may experience what you have. You cannot have what you want, but you may experience what you have. If you want something, it means you don't have it. So the universe will keep giving you the experience of wanting that thing. When you're going around like, oh, I want the relationship, and I'm like, I need it, and where's this person? When's this going to happen for me? The universe is going to respond and keep giving you that experience. But when you love yourself and your life, and you're progressing, and you're, you know, living in your passion, and you're inviting joy into your life, and you feel comfortable in your own skin, and you're showing up as your authentic self, the universe will respond. Right? I'm going to pause there. You got it?
That's beautiful. I wanted, first of all, I just want to give you a round of applause, man, because I know that definitely touched me. That hit me. And I think that that's a beautiful way to just, you really took it full circle for us, man. And in 1 hour, we were able to cover how to go from healing these childhood wounds that manifest in our relationships, that are impacting our reality, into how then we can love those things, confront those things, and then heal them, alchemize them, and then manifest the relationship of our dreams. And I know you're a busy man, and I want to give people something to be curious about as well. I don't want to give them everything. So how can people find you, Dan, and how can they reach out to you to schedule a one-on-one discovery call with you?
Instagram. Right now, just Instagram. You know, they can give me a follow and you know, reach out. I'll post everything upcoming. I co-authoring this book. I'm gonna have a podcast coming out. I'm in the process of creating a shadow work journal that people can download, so they can start uncovering like how we started this school. And that's all in the works. So everything will come through Instagram, and that's where they can find me. And, you know, DM me, or there's links in my bio with stuff, you know.
Thank you so much, brother. I love you so much. And I know you're in Texas right now. If I ever head that way, I'll make sure to meet up with you in person. And if you ever head my way, if you're ever in Miami, then please hit me up. All right. I want to see you again. Man. Love you so much. Thank you so much.
I'll always be coming to Miami, brother. So we'll be seeing you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, brother. And I will be this right after this call goes live. I'll be tagging you. So please make sure to give Dan a follow. It's the real Dan Smith, right? On Instagram.
Nope.
What is it? What is it?
Meet Dan Smith.
Oh, meet Dan Smith. Meet Dan Smith. Well, you are the real Dan Smith. You're as real as it comes, man. But it's Meet Dan Smith on Instagram, you guys. Make sure to give Dan a follow. If you have any questions, DM him, set up a one-on-one with him. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. I will see you guys next week with my friend Fernando and Erotica, who I'll be doing a Kirtan concert with on July 13th at Green Monkey at the beach. So if you guys have any questions about that, I'll be announcing that soon. Please hit me up. And thank you again, Dan. Any closing words you want to leave us with?
I think we covered it all.
Awesome. Thank you again, my man. All righty, my man. Much love to you. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Peace.